morning, everybody.
To get on live stream
That's live stream.
right now.
Gabby.
Hey,
Thank you for the heads up. Wasn't.
It's only good to sit down.
If you're laughing here, then we want to do that.
yes, I did that.
So I have it on my file.
All right, we're live and recording. Welcome, everybody, to the Capitalize Albany Studios. Let's convene this meeting. First order of business is the minutes of June 25th. Can I get a motion, please? Can I get a second? Second from the west side. Thank you, Michael. Any comments, corrections? Issues? All in favor?
Right.
Any opposed? Carried unanimously. That's great. Thank you very much. Next up is report of the executive staff.
If we jump to the next slide. So, this is our teaser. Now that we're here for breakfast, we wanted to show you a potential lunch. We are, yeah, so we are running the ribbon cutting today for Viva Empanadas at 90 North Pearl Street. It is a downtown retail grantee at that location. She's had a soft opening a few weeks back. We have already taste tested it. And we will be there again, and there will be food, I think, and flamenco dancing, and please feel free to stop by.
Which storefront in 90th?
Right at the corner, so she has yellow, facing, it's Sheridan and North Pearl, so at the corner, it's the far corner toward like on the casino. Empire Live.
North Pearl, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
thinking
so
90 States.
former bishop.
Former bishop. Got it, got it.
We go throwback.
Cool. Yeah,
It's had a lot of lives. We're gonna keep this one though. Yes.
all right. So it's 1 o'clock today.
1 o'clock today. Welcome to attend, and if not, feel free, make sure to stop by for lunch sometime, or get dinner to take home. And then, related to that, well, not really related to that specific grant, but related to grants in general. Last week, we obtained, Capital Resource Corporation board approval for the transfer of the previously budgeted, $70,000 in strategic initiatives funding. That funding, was requested in a breakdown of $50,000 to downtown retail and $20,000 for Amplify Albany. So as I said, it was previously budgeted. This is just to make the transfer from Capital Resource Corporation to Capitalize Albany to be able to continue the grants for the remainder of this budget season. Because we are, as always, quickly going through them, and we want to be able to replenish those funds so we can continue those Amplify and retail grants. And then I don't have a slide for this, but the consolidated funding application process at the state has been announced, or has been, the application process has wrapped up. So staff continued to serve as a liaison for that process for the city. We conducted the CFA workshop at the Albany Black Chamber with ESD Regional Director Mike Devlin in attendance, and we helped to answer questions for the community on that application process. We worked to obtain municipal resolutions. In the end, only 3 projects this year required those resolutions. Not every application requires one. And then 11 letters of support were provided on behalf of the mayor. And then as another state grants update, the Downtown Revitalization Initiative and New York Forward, the latest rounds have been launched. It's looking like the city is looking towards a third go round at South Pearl DRI, possibly with some boundary modifications, as encouraged by the state to be more competitive. So the team here will be looking to support that community engagement and that application process. Not exactly tightening it, sort of refining it. There was a ask to include Liberty Park within the boundary of that. So It sort of now sort of centers around Madison more so, but we do still go down to like the bathhouse. And other important like pivotal real estate open available vacant properties in the south end.
Does it go down to the grocery store?
I think it cuts right before it at this point, so it doesn't go to save a lot anymore, because I think that's right past Central Term, and I think we cut a little bit before Central
Which
Term.
grocery store you going
It's
to?
no longer Central.
The failed grocery
Yeah,
store.
no, it seems like that.
South End Grocery,
Yeah.
I thought you were referring to Steve Block, sorry.
No,
Yes, so South End Grocery is right at sort of the epicenter, you know, of like.
Right there. That's important.
yeah, you might be able to pick that up this time.
Was not returning to have some tree anymore because it didn't. Yeah, so I think that is, you know, we're optimistic that we're being encouraged to continue that path. And it's taken us 3 rounds before, and we've you know, continued to refine and improve the applications and get there. So we're hoping for a positive outcome this go around. That's the majority of the corporation update that won't fall in Liberty Park status updates or finance committee status updates. One other quick thing I did want to note, and I'm going to preface this by saying I don't have a lot of details regarding the St. Rose process right now. However, I did want to say, you've seen in the media, the Albany Pine Hills Land Authority has 6 or 7 board seats filled. From the county side, the mayor's seat will be hopefully announced soon. They've selected their broker. They're working with JLL. We've heard recently they're starting tours with interested parties. So we do have contact information if you know anyone that's interested in taking a tour. And staff is scheduled to have one on September 5th. So, you know, we're just looking to open that line of communication and be involved in them. That's a little bit more.
You know anything about the disposition strategy?
Not good.
So I may need to recuse myself if you're gonna discuss this. Because I have a dog that lives somewhere.
Okay.
So is that gonna,
No, no, I don't think so. I'm just curious, are they looking to sell the biggest buildings first? Is that fair?
I think the answer to that question is they want to sell it all in one piece.
One campus.
Which is difficult, but there's a whole bunch of people working and some coming together. So there's a lot in play. I will tell you, I personally think there's a disconnect because I think they're gonna, the bondholders are gonna take a haircut. I just don't think the bondholders can take a haircut. They don't have to. You know, the bond is 50 million. Well, properties worth a lot more than 50 million. So, but there's movement, there's a lot. That's exciting.
And so, you know, just looking to have a closer connect there with brokerage team, so more to follow. I will note that we do have the listing, and it does say that they're open, I think, to, you know, selling it all at once or in parcels or whatever. So there is the opportunity for folks to, you know, sort of have an interest in a piece, potentially. We're starting to see some interest come here directly, but because of the brokerage and the way it's done, sort of, you know, not connected to us totally. They're going to them directly, but they're starting to see some of that and encourage that because we have the IDA to be able to use as a tool and resource for that.
Well, obviously, it's a critical initiative, and what do we do to support the authority, disposition strategy, you know, recycle that, recycle purpose for the citizens.
Yeah, I think it's important. The idea is first of all, so that there is municipal financing that's done through ours as opposed to Vanguard.
It'd be hard to do, right? We should county regulation.
We feel similarly at the staff level as well, so we echo those sentiments.
And the authority they created, they should find.
And that's part of the purpose.
Actually, if only we can apply, acquire it.
We just have to do it.
And it doesn't still have to go, like the actual tools don't have to be through there, but I mean, more than likely they'll push it into the county if it comes through the. I would assume so. We're just trying to make sure that we're involved in the process and people know that we have those same abilities to do those things.
When will the mayor make her appointment? You know?
I think she had until the 23rd for people to submit their responses and their resumes for it, so hopefully coming soon, yeah.
Just an interesting, is that a project or development work with the time has we created authority for bonding, but it still needs to follow through the city CRC for a TEPR hearing, and we'll charge a fee for that. So it may well be cost prohibitive to go through the county, depending on how fee structures line up. So it'll be food for thought for an applicant.
Traditional proprietary use, they also have to do with your property taxes and the most efficient way to do that. And I don't know what it is, but that's a big consideration. To be continued.
So that wraps up corporation update, other than, like I said, the ones that fall under committee.
Any questions on the corporation update? There's a local memo on budget updates. So we had today's committee meeting, an investment committee meeting. We have the reports in here, including the investment reports, which were presented. Who's going to walk us through the notice summary memo here?
We do. Apologies, I was absent from finance committee, so I'm doing my best to build on the good work of our BST colleagues. We're evaluating financial performance as of June 30, 2024, continuing what looks to be a strong year. Revenue is up 40%, expenses are down 19%, resulting in net income of a little over $217,000. The overages are primarily due to the anomalous nature of our year, construction and strategic initiatives that we've gone. As an example, professional fees are up, but that's a function of the expenses associated with managing these projects. The administrative fees are also over budget, but again, that's the timing of some insurance payments that we made. We've done our best to hold the line all expense categories we can. Salary and fringe are well below budget, 64%, and occupancy is 86%. So we always operate to be effective stewards of the corporation's resources. We hope that the results reflect that. As you can see, we typically budget to a nominal deficit. Year-over-year position relatively static relative to the budget. So again, anomalous year resulting in that relative 17,000 deficit positive. So there is some supporting detail here, category specific, as well as the financial schedules that underpin the analysis. If there's any questions on any specific entities, I'll do my best to answer those. With respect to the Clinton Market collective projects, expenses are capitalized. They are on the balance sheet. We're working with our colleagues at UHY to determine use for relative appreciation purposes. Going forward, the operating revenue expenses will flow through on the P&L. So we're looking forward to monetizing that site. Most of the discussions are underway. Then the operators already had an event, which is great. But again, more good news to come on that. Cash as of June 30, collected cash unrestricted restrictions of approximately $5.1 million, down slightly, but looking forward as of today, the cash is increased nominally. So we're in a static, productive, conservative position, and we're happy with where the cash and investments are at. Great point. We use investment portfolios, both the reserve and liquidity portfolios are compliant with respect to asset class and quality. AA rating, liquidity portfolio, 5.4%, and the reserve portfolio, 5.9%. This will net of fees for loans values. We're working with Alicia and Hennis to evaluate some benchmark performance reporting, so we'll have that going forward. But again, the differences are primarily attributable to composition and duration differences between the two portfolios. The liquidity portfolio is a retail and much more liquid short term. Reserve portfolio long term, more structured debt and equities as opposed to treasury and agency and government debt. Again, both AA, S&P rated, so we're happy with both the relationship structure as well as the investment. Comments or questions?
We also had the one-time event being on sale at Palace.
Tom did mention that, so we are looking to potentially rebucket that, and carve that out, and as opposed to, moving it with other income, we classify that as an anomalous event. So it just depends on
It's a one-time.
the revenue.
Right.
So a lot of anomalous good activity this year that we're happy to report on. Again, the end result, we know we're throwing $17,000 to the good as of June 30, 2024.
We have a lot of transitional events relative to reimbursement, any issues with that, or scheduling, and can we fix that kind of financial impact perspective?
We had several grant submissions to feed up. We expect Q3, Q4, approximately $750,000 coming in. A lot of these schedules, and again, this position is somewhat unique to me in that, expenses are typically matched. The delay you see in some of these are the kind of the extended back and forth, that sometimes occurs with agencies and reimbursements. So,
That's just.
but we are working with our colleagues and our associated agencies next to the reimbursements. So, as an example, we have an SD grant for CMC, and there's a national grid grant that we're teaming up now. Actually, has been in close communication with her economic development contact there. And again, we do have several buckets that are continuing to draw down. The timing and the nature of which is probably time dependent, but no issues as well.
So compliments to, I think with all that you guys that are facing, to be able to show black kids opposed to red, I think it's certainly fantastic. I'm sure that your hard work and that finance committee, and I think the turnover of the chair has shown that we've wanted policies to games. But no, seriously, it has always been a struggle. So to be able to take a little bit of pressure off, but we recognize that's not without, and also have that work like that. So very, very fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just grateful to have like the right faces in the seats and doing great work. So
There's a tremendous amount of complexity that's evident in the financing of these projects, and you have multiple sources with multiple requirements, people looking over everybody's shoulders. There's a lot of public scrutiny and public authorities in all those myriad of agencies, and we did a really good job. We have a lot of cash in suspense and transition as we're waiting reimbursement. So I believe it requires a pretty significant amount of professionalism and administrative this one to manage all this. We're doing a really good job, so I appreciate that. And it's important because these projects don't happen without multiple sources. They don't. If the market was functioning for these, we wouldn't be necessary for them. But because we are, we've got to really come to market release. Any questions that we have on the quarterly financial report? So you got a bunch in there. You got a balance sheet. You've got income expense statements. You've got cash flow statements. You've got Johnson or Great Point's presentation of their two funds that they manage, which seems to be any issues with Great Point.
We're happy they're responsive, they're professional, and anything we need to right on the ball with it. So the only thing we're working on with them is some of the reporting meetings. But again, we're playing around the edges for that. We're happy with the content.
Likely we're coming to an inflection point on interest rates, so that's going to, most of our liquidity, these are largely highly liquid accounts, is benefiting from very high interest rates, and that's going to likely go in a different direction. It'll be interesting to see if strategy changes. I don't know if they will, but you also seen we did change none of the investment guidelines that allow actually whenever that was a couple of years ago, but at this point that had an impact on results, and that's a very good. So that's good. All right, great. We don't take a motion in a moment, we just report it out. I'll ask that question. All right, then we've got a, update on our tenant, right?
Yeah, so this is just an update. There's no action required at this time. But we did unfortunately receive notice that our downstairs tenant, the Downton Albany Business Improvement District, would not be taking the option to renew their lease. I mean, it's not unexpected. We had known that they had asked to go year to year, but they have been looking, they've been growing, they've added a bunch of new staff, and then with their needs related to events and storage, they're just a growing capacity and kind of bursting at the seams a little bit downstairs. So they will be, the lease will expire December 31. And they'll be vacating that. And so we would be looking to get a new tenant.
So we're gonna do that. There's no general use we have for that. And the financial impact is pretty inconsequential. I thought the benefit was having like purpose companies working closer together should have some synergy. And it might have, I have no idea, but this building is not very conducive to that. It's so compartmentalized. And at some point, we've got a lot to do. At some point, this is really the best building for this organization. That's why we have to serve. It's a good convention. That's for another day. All right, then we're gonna get an update on Clinton Market Collective.
Yes, 965. Okay, so we were all invited to the grand opening on August 1. We do apologize for the very rapid announcement and commencement of that grand opening. When we have all these state funding sources involved, they kind of lead that race. And construction wrapped up on July 31 and grand opening was the very next day. Don't lose this idea, please. And so you'll see on the right, the city engaged Fred Coffee, local photographer. He's amazing. They got him to take some photos of Clinton Market. We have a night shot there. And then we hired Kiki, I'm going to butcher her last name, Vasilakis, I think. Something like that, for our photos on the left for Bougie Moon, they were a vendor on site serving non-alcoholic ice cream. We invited the children from the summer camp at the Montessori school, Castle Island Montessori. So we were able to demo the pop jet fountains and they were able to run through them. So all in all, a great day with more than 150 attendees to really celebrate and mark the opening of that. And I forgot to mention, thank you to Nine Pin Cider for serving our non-alcoholic cider at the event. And looking forward to many more engagement there, but that, sort of started us off. Wow. And then next slide. So this is moving into sort of the technical side of things, grant wise, and construction funding wise. We are wrapping up on our grant reimbursements on this grant. So Department of State is down to, there's about 250 to 60,000 in the wings. One that's been submitted for the first chunk of that we are trying to get approval on, and then the other 105,000 pending. We just want to make sure that when we submit that last 105 that we do it the way they want us to do it. And then the 750,000 for Empire State Development, we've started that process with several of their forms. We were told that's shooting towards the November board meeting for approval. We expect maybe there is some additional paperwork we'll have to submit, but we did get in the first tranche of that at least. And then for the National Grid grant funding, we have started the reimbursement process for that. That seems to be pretty simple. And both of those are one shots, like at the end of the project, you complete construction and then you submit for a full reimbursement of those. So we hope for those to be uneventful one and dones. Progress payments are wonderful, but sometimes they're a little bit challenging too, but they're necessary.
Sure.
And then sort of
On that last slide, so that CAC owns that for 1.19, is that, right? See that, right?
No, so the remaining amount is on that, the amount of grant funds we have to, still receive. The board committed up to $610,000 of corporation resources on that. We're in alignment with budget. We are reconciling all the final costs. We anticipate them to be around the $3.8 million mark total of what was anticipated, but TWA is getting us the final amounts on what's remaining for contingency.
So at the end of the day, we'll be in for $1 million around.
Yes,
600.
600.
It's pretty good. It's good.
Aside from operational costs moving forward, but construction wise, we completed an over $3.8 million project and we have $600,000. And then you'll see a teaser. Well, I think we want to dip into the operations before we go to the slide a little bit. We see a teaser of some of the projections. We have brought these to finance committee, I think back in June. So Andrew, I don't know if there's anything there you want to walk over.
Just that we are in final stages of kicking off for solicitation of records. We expect that to occur this week. It's this week, I'm on it. So these numbers will start to coalesce more solidly in the months to come. We're optimistic that the refurbishment of the plant containers will make them appealing venue for operators. So it's just about finding the right fit. So more to come on that, but we'll have some numbers about that. It's helpful charts and graphs.
Are those years? What is that?
Months until year end. So basically we did a very short term forecast right now, and as numbers firm up with when we see how insurance costs shake out from the transition from construction to permanent operations, when we see how water usage things like that start to tick in as actuals, we'll be able to make this more effective.
So just in summary, what this represents is short-term P&L with the understanding that the activation will occur late August or September. Activity gradually picking up and revenue not quite offsetting expense, but approaching that. Next year, with the first full annual activation, we expect that to be more of a revenue neutral organization, or as close to it.
I don't appreciate your creative use of concepts. All right.
In my defense, that was a full sheet before. It was condensed down.
It's like microphones.
It's our monthly business.
This is what I get from missing finance committee.
Yeah.
Are we projecting anything for naming rights? I know I'm a dog here along with this, but I really think you've got opportunities for naming rights.
Yes, I think that's part of the whole sponsorship plan. We do have live the larger sponsorship packages that we started with, that had started with like the shipping containers, helping to fit those up, the stage that we weren't able to acquire as we had to refine the construction budget, artwork, things like that. The team is working through also smaller sponsorship items because we have a couple of requests out there for things like benches and tables and but yes, naming rights will be we'll have to add that to the latest packet that goes out because that's going to have everything once we get all the smaller stuff in there. So.
I don't maybe they're complicated, but do we monitor, we're planning on monitoring the use and impact of these facilities? For example, we did the, bridge to walking pathway, now this, right? I mean, how do we know that it's being used? That, what's the intensity of use and impact?
For Clinton Market, in part, it's because we are currently managing the operations of that, and then we'll be managing the market operator themselves. So we will be able to track, or we will be able to institute through the operating agreement what we want them to be able to report back on that. But there's a number of approvals we're going to have for every event that occurs there. So that will help with metrics and reporting on how many events there. In the interim, we've been soliciting the events and the requests directly. So we have an amazing idea, firsthand knowledge of what's been happening there. If we go to the next slide, we we hosted, at CMC, the Downtown Bids annual event, last annual meeting last week. They have the New York Players Band, they had a number of vendors, probably about 5 or so, Bowl and Bee Eatery, Boozy Moo, the Seat Center, 677 Prime, Viva Empanadas, and more that I'm probably forgetting. Beignet Bellies as well. Pretty well attended, great to see it used in a little bit different way than ours. Like we did 10 and we had a very minimal use in terms of vendors, just to sort of showcase large tent, small tent, and then the beautiful trailer. I don't know what you call that, Sonia, but their cart. Our horse trailer. Horse trailer. It was very beautiful to see. Mobile bar, horse trailer. Just to showcase sort of the examples of what sorts of vendors can go on there with pulling on food trucks or trailers, having a pop-up tent, having a large scale tent. Because basically this is open and flexible for any sort of corporate engagement, private parties, and whatever folks envision for this space, public events, public markets. They just have to come through us to be able to use this space. And we do have license fees set up and usage fees for event rentals. And then you'll see on the bottom of the slide, Albany Running Exchange and Common Roots. They do their weekly trails and ales running series. They started the run on Clinton Market and they ended the run on Clinton Market, and they did a beer tasting, beer sampling at the event afterwards. And you see on the slide, they're running on the Skyway right past the beautiful view of the Central Warehouse that will be demolished in the very near future, or at least the future. Really, with tapping into the request for proposals that we're doing now with the city and Albany Parking Authority, that's going to allow us to be able to try to engage those sites, both the Skyway, the Square now has been added into it, and Clinton Market in a more meaningful and intentional way. So we've been pushing that out to our full mass mailing list. As well as direct folks that we know either are vendors or they have an interest in doing pop-ups. So there's a number of folks locally or regionally that have that interest that we're trying to see if we can maybe mesh some together to create a bigger team that can manage all 3 spaces.
What about just sort of people going there, not for an event, and people hanging out there, but what kind of, we have to make sure that safety and.
Yes, so what we're currently working on is getting signage for the space. We're getting quotes on that to be able to at a minimum identify what are the prohibited uses on the site, to be able to say like no, smoking, no unauthorized uses, alcohol only upon authorization, basically we'll refine the language, but we're getting a quote on the signage.
You know, I would,
We do have liability insurance on the site as a property owner, so that is something.
Ours
that-
is similar.
How lit is it at night? It's beautiful when you come off
It is very well lit. It
Is
is.
it on timers or is it?
It is on timers and then solar cells as well. So it's almost like, I think I said this to you before, it's almost more beautiful at nighttime than it is in the daytime. And I mean that in the most beneficial, positive way ever, just because the lighting is phenomenal. And that was, I think, in large part to Kira Ritter and her team, that they had a specific sub-consultant for lighting engaged on the project with Wilson O'Neill.
I guess it's so important for security, people feeling secure, invitability, and all that. I think the presentation to come off Clinton Avenue exit off the center shut is fantastic. You come down and you see it and it comes up towards the house. It's really fantastic.
you know, I was just gonna say there was a project to install Signify luminaires along South Pearl and I think up North Pearl, and that gives you 5G Wi-Fi coverage. And on this platform, you can put all kinds of sensor security, things like that. It was stuck National Grid is, or I'm sorry, New York Power Authority is funding it. It's now going into full installation right now and should be done by December. So, I've been involved in going after grants to use it as a smart cities test bed, aspect of it, but I think this could be a really exciting. If we think of ways that Wi-Fi can be used for security and other, public use, like when it's not being actively used, but just, in other ways. This is really kind of unique technology that Albany has, believe it or not, and, is a distinguishing factor we can play out and, investigate more on kind of how to leverage it. We're looking at for student projects and all that type of stuff.
Is there a seasonal cutoff point for doing events there? I got
That,
some questions about.
yes, that is a great question. So, in terms of the shipping containers, I should note the shipping containers do require some additional put up to be fully operational. That was envisioned to be completed with, the potential tenants. So the electrical, the connections are at the containers, but they need to be wired, and the containers need to be wired and connected to the electrical and get basically code approval of all of that at the city. Same thing with plumbing, like it's plumbed at the site and need to connect in. So my point in bringing those up is that the plumbing is not below the frost level. So for the shipping containers, those are probably more 3-season operations, because in terms of costs, putting it below everything below the frost level just ended up being something that was a hit or miss in terms of that. At least on the initial build, we chose to not extend the added costs to dig it deeper. That site was a little challenging on digging deep anyway. So shipping containers 3-season, and then the rest of the market, we are working to get quotes on snow removal to see what those costs will be to be able to maintain this and have this available. And I think as we get inquiries, and how they phase out or phase in over the winter, we'll have more of an idea of what we need to do there in terms of winter. I mean, I think as staff, we would love to see it activated in the winter. We just don't want to have snow removal costs and all of those liability reasons and all of that sort of make it not be something that's sort of worth our while in terms of interest. So we have to make sure to balance those levers.
Okay, thank you. And the primary contact, if someone wanted to do an event there, would be?
We go through our development inbox and the whole team works to coordinate those efforts.
There is an email address for that.
Development@capitalizealbany.com.
Thank you.
Is that obvious? Anthony's
Email.
asking a pretty fundamental question. If you want to rent, how do you do it? And is it obvious that someone should go to the developmental?
Yes, so we have a full page of the website dedicated towards capitalizealbany.com/Clinton Market. It's a bit jam-packed right now, because we do have a lot of things to talk about on that page in terms of event rentals, vendor top-ups, sponsorships, just celebrating the fact that it's open. So we will probably need to start subdividing that out into PDFs and things, but it is all up. It is live, it is there. There is a contact us form at the base of it. And that goes directly to our development inbox as well.
It's helpful to think about the user experience and if they want to use this, how they go about it, how simple it is. Put it through that filter. I don't want to lose Havan's point about measuring impact is super important. Visitors, events, and having a thought around that. We've got a concentration on investment and in location and dollars. And how we validate that energy is important.
There are consultants that do they can do counts and things like that. I would imagine they're pretty pricey, but we could,
I think basically though, I think start simple. How many events, how many people, and you create a metric and simplify. And so if it's number of events, how many times you're gonna turn something on, that's a good metric. And that forces you to think about collaborations and other things.
Also, I mean, we're charging fees Are they gonna change depending on the season? You know, people might wanna, stretch it if you've got lower fees in November, December.
Good point, and the seasons are getting milder.
I know, we're Virginia now.
Yeah,
right? So,
it
yeah.
really is.
Yeah, but I do think that, I don't know what the fee structure looks like,
Yeah.
but that the season would affect that.
Well, even like in Europe, they have the Christmas markets,
Right.
right? So that would be
Yeah,
perfect
city
for a
like
Christmas
Bryant
market.
Park.
Yeah, like Bryant Park
Yeah.
has it, and just their outdoor vendors. And then they also sell apple cider, things
Right.
like that. But
I think that's a great point on the pricing structure. Right now, we just have an intro pricing structure. I think that's a great point on the seasonality. I think because we are trying to ultimately select an operator that will determine their rates potentially in consultation with us. Those are what we're starting with, and then the operator they'll have to present financials that make sense for them in order to do it and make it worth their while.
I think Ashley just said it's all part of the air conditioner.
Yeah, it's hard to hear.
Yeah. Long-term programming. Is that us? The plan is to define a long-term program.
Yeah, so that's the purpose of the request for proposals, not necessarily long-term initially. So the RFP is out for a one-year term with potential extensions, really to gauge the interest and try to get a dedicated entity that would want to facilitate events and markets and, basically whatever types of cool events to activate these three spaces. And we really like the opportunity presented from the city of Albany and the parking authority to have all three spaces as part of this, so that folks have the most ability to put and activate vendors on site. Because it may be a little bit challenging for them to make money, and so we want to be able to see that they have as much acreage as possible to be able to utilize and have for market space and be able to make that work out. So that's the goal of the RFP, is to have that dedicated long-term operator.
Are there local groups that would look at that RFP?
There definitely are. There's a number of folks that do markets like the Twilight Market and other local markets. We are looking at talking to folks to see if they're interested in expanding. The Twilight Market is currently down at Quackenbush Square. If that grows, like that might be something she is interested in. And then there's other folks that have actually already reached out that are vendors that work at like the Troy Farmers Market and whatnot, that are interested in doing their own, orchestrating their own market.
Actually, in the really big picture, do we see an avenue to leverage all of our cultural art, public spaces? Is this the beginning of that, where we have a goal, we drill back to a point where someone is really thinking about the palace, about the convention center, about the Liberty, all of it. Is there any of that kind of discussion happening? Because it seems to me, we're at a genesis, a really good point. Now, maybe not a point we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I would say individual entities like the Convention Center Authority, the Palace, they have already reached out to me at the event and separately to talk about partnerships related to sort of coordinating events and activation at the site. So, and I think Tenbrook Mansion, was that the other one? So there's a number of the cultural events or cultural facilities that have reached out to try to connect and partner, either through sponsorships or for coordinating the activation with what they've got going on. And that's definitely been something that staff has had envisioned from like the forefront of this, like 4 years ago, of like being able to have performers on site prior to Palace Theater events and really try to extend the evening or extend the weekend for folks that are here and be able to have things at partnering sites that complement the things that are already going on. Like, we're not trying to pirate any of the visitors. It's more to try to like give the visitors more things and add on to their stay. I think that's really the goal of like Discover Albany and the Downtown Bed and all of us.
Yeah, I would strongly advocate that we gotta get this off the ground, we gotta get, but we really think down the road and we think about a way that we can tie in all of these pieces of the web for our city. Instead of thinking about all of it in silos. I think it's a great opportunity to start that. And you know, it doesn't have to necessarily be the work of this board. We've been pretty busy, but I just think we should be thinking about
Yeah.
that, you know?
And
Okay.
because
I think that makes-
that's spot on, and you know, we have a lot of, as you said, now various spaces, event spaces, entities owned by different organizations, funded differently, different intended purpose, but they all collectively contribute to a downtown experience that's changing very quickly as office gets less relevant to downtown spaces and residential housing becomes more relevant. Entertainment supplements that. Food and dining become vitally important. See this incredible explosion in North Albany and how we knit that all together and make this experience as good as it can be. I think that's really important, and coordination of that. We have all these event spaces now scattered throughout, and how we think about that. I don't have a perfect idea of how to do that, but I think we should be thinking about that, not to necessarily be the convener or the point, but to be helpful in making sure that that evolves.
The Convention Center Authority has started a recent working group that does convene I think they've invited the 3 bids. Discover Albany, the museum, I'm probably forgetting the mayor's in it and her team. We are involved in it. Albany County, so they sort of, the convention center has started trying to do a working group of like convening us. I think this is sort of a postmortem related to the NCAA basketball tournament, and folks wanted to see us sort of work together a little bit more to like promote everything that's going on in a better coordinated way.
Really important, so not that we're the point of that, but we need to be facilitative.
Yeah.
Anything else on quick market question? Any updates, any questions for the staff? Really exciting, thank you. All right, and then we're gonna have report of Liberty Park to me. Do we go into executive session for this?
We will, and so you want to talk about the procurement policy, because you can't have to read that.
Yes, please.
So just quickly, Ashley and I were discussing this week, procurement policy basically requires competitive processes to occur before we procure goods or services at different levels. Different approvals are required. The board gets involved at 50,000 and above. Below that level, every time we buy goods and services, it requires either verbal or written quotes. But with the approval of 2 officers, we have 1 officer in that. So what I would like to do, just to keep things moving, and we'll do a formal resolution at the next board meeting, which will ratify this action, but I would like to get the ability, if the board so chooses, is to allow procurements to continue below the board level with 1 officer and 1 director, that's what the term is. So we just don't have 2 officers right now, so we're running into some issues sometimes buying simple things that we need to buy. This comes up annually anyways. We just haven't looked at this, scheduled to come up later this year, so it hasn't triggered yet, but I'd like to do that if the board so chooses and keep that process moving. Again, it would just simply amend the places where it says approval of 2 officers to approval of 1 officer, which is Ashley, and then a director.
I get a motion to any question about that?
No question, but I would suggest if you're looking at it, that you look at the board limit. I think 50,000, personally, $50,000 is unreasonably low.
Yeah.
For an organization like this, I think that should. Right.
Understand, so we look at that.
And director is a staff,
Right.
so how many directors? do you have?
Currently 2, Andy and Andy. I think we could just replace it with Andy for now, but.
Anyone named Andy?
Chair none.
And then they're not allowed to leave then, so then you just keep their name in there.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
Just take into account Michael's recommendation that we just made.
Yeah, we'll look at that number
I
and.
think it's gonna come back to procurement, when we do the annual procurement, but this will more keep the lights on, and I think that's a good advice.
Yeah.
So did we just lose quorum?
No. We'd and coming right.
Oh, right.
Ready.
So we're ready.
Okay.
No.
This is where we get to the good part.
So, you ready to get to the good part?
I think we.
Yeah, so this would be a motion for executive session,
To discuss.
to discuss, present litigation.
Okay, so
All right, so we're gonna have executive session.
Yeah, so we'd like to put a motion on the table. We'll need a first and second.
Are we rolling?
Audio rolling.
We're rolling. So we'd like to get a motion on the table. We'll need a first and a second to authorize the president of Capitalize Albany Corporation to move forward with perfecting the appeal at the appellate division in the litigation with PSC LLC.
Not just authorize, but recommend.
Yeah, recommend authorize. Yeah,
Okay, great.
that's great.
So there's a motion on the table.
I'll make that.
Take a second, all right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Great, carried unanimously, so you're duly authorized or supported. And anything else out of executive session to talk about? No? Or to report to the minutes? Nothing?
Well,
No further
if
action?
there's no actions we're taking.
No actions were taken. It's-
Okay, great. So we're gonna move to adjourn. We had a long meeting. I appreciate this. Really exciting things going on. And I just want to point out, it's false. Everybody should go to Albany and see a football game. All right, that's fun. Everybody should drink a little cider. You know, Wall means cider. We should all have cider and alcoholic cider. None of this.
Or you got an alcoholic, you could go in with us.
Thank you for that, but it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Come on.
Elected officials.
We have motion to adjourn. So